I'm working on this heart-shaped tin shrine, and I've been making some little test flowers to put right here because this V is slightly off center, and that's where it needs to hit the heart to support the hanging pieces. So I'm just going to cover it up with a little flower like this. And this was a test one that I did, and I made it by punching some aluminum with paper punches. And you're probably wondering where you get aluminum that's thin enough to punch with a paper punch. This happens to be an aluminum drink can. This is a prune juice can, but you can do this with soda cans too. And I just cut off the ends and flattened it out. And then the reason that I'm not using this flower is because I didn't remove the finish off. I just wanted to see if this was going to work. So I didn't remove the finish, but I'm going to remove the finish from this one. But first I'm going to show you how you flatten out the cans. For this, you're going to need a craft knife or a kitchen knife, either one, and a pair of really dull scissors. This doesn't work with sharp scissors. So the first thing you want to do is punch a hole in the side of the can, and you want to do this pretty close to the top edge. There's kind of a little ridge on most cans, and this ridge corresponds to where the inside of this top ends. So if you punch it on the ridge or just slightly below the ridge, you'll clear the recessed portion of the top, which is really hard to cut through. So, and you just do this by applying steady pressure on the knife, and you're applying pressure on a curved surface, so keep your fingers out of the way and don't try to stab at it, because you're liable to veer off and stab yourself instead. So you just want to put the tip in and apply steady pressure until it pops. And you just need a little bit of a slit to fit your scissors into. And then you're just going to cut. And this is really ragged and creates a lot of burrs. So keep your fingers out of the way. And I did a couple of these with some kitchen shears, the dull shears that you use in the kitchen, and those worked really well. So if you don't have dull scissors in your craft room, maybe you'll have kitchen shears. This piece goes in the recycle bin. And then find the seam in the artwork and cut a straight line down the seam. And then cut away the bottom. And again, be really careful to keep your hands away from the metal edges as much as possible, because they have all these burrs on them that will stab you. They're evil. And this piece goes in the recycle bin. Now you have a piece of metal that really wants to curl. So I'm very gently going to drag this against the side of my table and kind of persuade it not to be so curly. And then I'm going to cut this straight and cut off all the burrs. These go in the recycle bin too. Watch your fingers. Now I can drag this without being afraid that I'm going to stab myself with a burr. And there's a relatively flat piece of aluminum. Before I punch out any flowers, I want to take the finish off this metal. And the easiest way to do that is with a sanding block. I'm just going to go in a circular motion. And this is a coarse sanding block. And I just want to sand it until the finish starts to come off. Just like that. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe off my work surface and also metal. So you can see there, it's bare right here and it still has paint on it right here. So I'm just going to do that all the way down, and hopefully I'll end up with some clear areas of just plain aluminum. It's hard to get it off around the edges, and I'll show you that after I finish this piece, but you don't need to watch me do the whole thing. Here's my sanded aluminum, and you can see there's some places where I couldn't quite get the whole finish off, but that's okay. So now I'm going to punch, and I'm going to use my punch upside down so that I can be sure that I'm getting all silver pieces. And I can also minimize that leftover stuff by using this as the wrong side and flipping it over, because the right side is much shinier, and the side that I've sanded is sort of, it has the striations from the sandpaper in it. So, and I like to do this to make flowers. If I can get my punch out. But you can do any shape. I recommend simple shapes. You can see that I had trouble getting the punch back out once the shape is punched because it has these little spiky pieces that get in the way. Let's try it over here. And to make this flower, I used 3 of the same punch. There we go. So now what I want to do is glue these at the center. I think what I'm going to do is glue them so that I have matte, shiny, and matte. So to glue these, I'm not going to stack them like this so that they're all in the same direction. I'm going to rotate them slightly. So this is E6000, but any solvent glue designed for metal is fine. And I'm just going to put a little bit on. And then I'm going to stick the centers together. Just a tiny bit. And I'm only using a little bit because I don't want the glue to spread beyond the center, because I'll end up with petals that are glued together. So now I'm just going to let this sit with a bottle of paint sitting on top of it. So now I've let this sit for just a few minutes. It's not completely dry, and now I'm bending the petals up. Here. So now I'm going to stop fiddling with this and let it dry for real. these are my finished flowers. I did 2 small ones and 1 big one. And now I need a way to attach them that is a little more stable than gluing. So on my little test flower, I did a test of a wiring method that I'm going to show you now. So this is just plain craft wire, and I'm cutting just a short piece of it. I don't need very much. And I'm going to bend this in half. And wrap the wires around each other to form a circle. And then I'm going to bend them and press them together so that I end up with a circle with 2 wires sticking out of, sort of coming out of the bottom center of it. It doesn't have to be exactly in the center. There. Now I need a hole in the center of the flower. So I'm going to take a push pin, or you could use an awl, and I'm pushing down on a piece of cardboard so that the pin has somewhere to go other than my work table. And I'm going to twist. And again, you could do this with an awl, but I want kind of a decent size hole. And this is smaller than an awl, so that's why I chose to do it with a push pin. I need a hole that's big enough to get 2 wires through. Let's see if this is big enough. Nope, not quite. Here, I think that's better. There we go. So, just pulling this through and then pulling the wires flat. And what I'm going to do now is put a little dab of glue in here. And then I can attach this to my shrine and twist the wires in addition to gluing in place, and that will hold it really well. And to cover up this little squiggle in the center, I have some rhinestones that I'm going to drop in. So the center of the flower is going to be a rhinestone that's glued in place to cover over the fact that I am adding this support in the center. So here's my flower in place. I wired it around these 2 supports back here and then glued the base of it so it's really stable and it's not going to shift around. And then this rhinestone covers over that swirl of wire that was in the center and just gives it a nice clean finish. It also looks kind of cool too.